the first thing you do is you look at what you're taking drugs for. What have you got prescriptions for?
Okay, yep.
Whatever you're going to the doctor for, you probably are ignoring the fact that that's a symptom that your body's out of balance and it's telling you this isn't working, right? So if you look at all the nutrition deficiencies, mineral deficiencies, trace mineral deficiencies, vitamin deficiencies, enzyme deficiencies, and look at the psychological side effects and look at the physiological side effects of any of those, which all can be looked up easily in books and on the internet, probably about 90% of all the drugs being given to people in doctors' offices are the side effects of eating incorrectly.
That was Paul Chek, and you're listening to The Regenerative Journey.
G'day, I'm your host Charlie Arnott, an 8th generational Australian regenerative farmer. And in this podcast series, I'll be diving deep and exploring my guests' unique perspectives on the world so you can apply their experience and knowledge to cultivate your own transition to a more regenerative way of life.
Welcome to The Regenerative Journey with your host, Charlie Arnott.
G'day, welcome back to The Regenerative Journey and welcome to this missing file, the file we found of Paul Chek. Paul may have been wondering where the rest of it had gone, and so was I really, but we have found it. We had some technical difficulties on the day, not any of Paul or Penny's doing. Simply my computer ran out of batteries. We were using Wi-Fi. Penny was amazing to actually get us back on, getting us working again. And so this is the final file, the final part of the interview that went missing, basically, and we found it all those months later. But anyway, this is a bonus. It does add another episode to the season, which is great. And I trust you enjoy this concluding part 2 really, given Paul's interview went out a few weeks ago. Part 2 of this interview on the Regenerative Journey with Paul Chek. Okay, Paul, we're back after some battery
Technical difficulties.
failure, basically it was.
I think where I left off was I was talking about the importance of individuality. I was talking about genetics and the need for being aware of how your body responds to your food. And so, there's in my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, which I just gave you there, there's a test in there to help you identify what I call your primal pattern diet type. So I have an equator type, which is like the mixed type. And then I have the polar types. And so I have 3 types in there, a variable, an equator, and a polar. So your Mediterranean diet would be more like the equator types. Yeah. Your kind of paleo diet, more carnivore oriented, is the polar types because it's colder in the cold regions of the world. And the mixed type are people that can, they're more like what we call flexitarians. The issue is, though, the more towards mixed you go, the more on top of your game you got to be because your body's much more dynamic. So someone like that following, say, a specific diet out of a book is likely to create more problems for themselves. This is one of the reasons you see that people will start a new diet and they'll do really well for 2 or 3 months, but all of a sudden they start having problems. It's because the new diet gave them new variety, and it gave them maybe something that they weren't getting from their other diet. Like maybe they weren't getting enough flesh food, but now they go to a keto diet and all of a sudden their body's soaking up all this nutrition, but it's becoming too acidic and they don't have the right genetics to break that much flesh down. So they're getting a lot of toxic byproducts such as urinary indican and incomplete digestion, which sets you right up for parasite and fungal infection. And so then all of a sudden they start doing worse. And I've had countless patients come to me that got cancer, went to a natural health professional that treats cancer naturally, put them on a vegetarian diet, and they usually do well for about 3 to 5 years, but they come to me with cancer again. Why? Because they're now so nutritionally deficient and they don't have enough saturated fat and protein to run their hormonal system. So they go from cleaning their body out, getting a lot of plant nutrition, which they were lacking before, often to a higher quality of food, but now they're starving for the building blocks for the hormonal system, and that system collapses again. So the key thing about what I was sharing with diet is you've got to pay attention to how your body responds. And I have diagrams in there showing you exactly what responses indicate a lack of carbohydrate versus a lack of fat and protein right there. You turn right to it. So that basically is a diagram that I use the tachometer as an example. If you're eating too much fat and protein, it's like shifting gears too soon in a car. It lugs the engine and you get a lot of unburnt fuel.
Yeah.
And if you run it too hard, then you're putting too much stress on the engine. So that's like eating too much carbohydrate. It overstimulates the cells, makes them run too fast, and that leads to blood sugar handling problems and burnout. So this tells you what the optimal symptoms should be from eating a meal. And this tells you too much carbohydrate versus too much fat and protein. And this tells you if you get these symptoms, this is what you do as quickly as possible to bring yourself back into the power zone.
That's cool.
So it shows you the basics of how to respond if you're not getting the right macromolecules in a given meal, because your body gives you classic characteristic symptoms that you can understand when you know what to look for. And so the key thing is, if you're paying attention to how your body's responding, for example, after you have a meal, you should have a sense of calmness in you, a sense of being more grounded and centered. You should have mental clarity. You should have enough energy to last you 4 hours. So if you're constantly having to graze on snacks because you're hungry, it means your ratio is out of balance. You got your carbohydrate versus fat protein ratio is out of balance. You should have your body should feel like it's functioning well. You should not be thirsty. You should not be hungry. If you, for example, eat a meal, but you feel full and hungry, that almost always means you didn't get enough fat.
Yeah, okay.
And that's what happens, for example, or you're eating as a protein type, polar type, I need a lot of dark meat because I need the richer proteins in there. And if I eat, say, rabbit or white meat chicken, I can be so full that I'm uncomfortable, and 20 minutes later I feel like I'm starving, but I can't eat anything because I'm too full. And so what people will do is they'll keep eating and overload the digestive system and cause trouble for themselves. So the point that I'm making in a nutshell, without going through a long list of indicators, is that you should be able to last 4 hours, and you should feel good, and you should function well. You shouldn't feel like you've got these nagging symptoms of hunger or inability to digest or mental clarity problems or focus problems. Or, for example, if you eat too much carbohydrate or simple carbohydrates, you'll find yourself jittering like you've drank too much coffee. And your mind will be jumping all over like a Mexican jumping bean. So there's a lot of very clear indicators of when you are or are not eating the right ratio of foods. And then you got to make sure the food's got enough nutrition in it, because you can eat the right ratio of foods, but nutritionally void food and constantly having trouble. So it really boils down to quality. How much do you need per meal and volume? And what is the right ratio for your unique needs? And then knowing, for example, what your body needs based on what you're doing and what kind of stresses are in your life. And I'll give you a simple example of that. When I'm on my rest days, I could practically go vegetarian and feel fine. But days when I lift weights, especially if I do deadlifts or squats or lunges, big exercises, it'll make me crave meat for 2 days.
Because your body's saying, I need to replenish.
I broke all that protein down, lifting heavy weights. So when you start listening to your body and paying attention to how it correlates with activity levels and how it correlates with things like mental, emotional stress, you're going to see there's radical differences no matter how you test out. Because for one, about 90 to 95% of the world population has a fungal infection and a parasite infection. So you could be eating right based on what the book says, but if you've got fungal or parasite infection, they're consuming so much of those resources, you can actually get very confusing results, even though you're eating technically right by the book.
So can you test for that?
You can test for that, yeah. There's a lot of symptoms that are clear indicators that you have these problems, which I have a course called Healing Fungal and Parasite Infections, the Absolute Essentials, which is, you can get it online. And it goes through exactly what the symptoms of fungal infection are, parasite infections are, How do you know if you've got one? What are some common general approaches? And it's basically the same kind of stuff you and I were just talking about with Angie about the animals.
Yeah.
But if you don't know that stuff, the point is it confuses your internal biochemistry so much and your immune system so much that one of the ways you know you have a problem is because you've followed the test, you're doing everything right, but your body's not responding the way it should, which means there's something and there's an X factor in the mix.
So with that, you said, listening to your body, I think that's a skill that a lot of us have lost or never have, or the muscles are so weak.
Yeah.
How can someone practice or kind of listening to that over another hour?
Oh no, it's not that. It's just very simple to answer. The first thing you do is you look at what you're taking drugs for. What have you got prescriptions for?
Okay. Yep.
Whatever you're going to the doctor for, you probably are ignoring the fact that that's a symptom that your body's out of balance and it's telling you this isn't working, right? So if you look at all the nutrition deficiencies, mineral deficiencies, trace mineral deficiencies, vitamin deficiencies, enzyme deficiencies, and look at the psychological side effects and look at the physiological side effects of any of those, which all can be looked up easily in books and on the internet, probably about 90% of all the drugs being given to people in doctors' offices are the side effects of eating incorrectly.
Yeah.
And I've got a book in my library that is mind-boggling. It's called Clinical Ecology by Lawrence Dickey, MD. It was written in 1972. That book is about 600 plus pages of research on food allergy and food intolerance and what it does to people. And he shows beyond a shadow of a doubt that almost all the reasons that people come to hospitals for other than acute injuries has something to do with the food they're eating.
Totally.
And that book was so informative and so powerful that before it even got off the press, the American Medical Association tried to block it from being published and they tried to pull his medical license.
Wow.
So he got into a big battle to retain his license and eventually was able to get the book published. But it took me about a year to read that book because it's very deep and scientific and it's comprehensive. But when I finished that book, it was beyond a shadow of a doubt in my mind that the most important thing for your health is exactly what Hippocrates said. He said, food is man's best medicine. And it's also your best way to make yourself sick and get a disease if you don't know how to pay attention to the things that are important.
What about mental illness?
Mental illness is very, very common as a side effect of bad food. In fact, I've got books in my library I could pull out and show you right now. George Watson, Nutrition and Your Mind is one. There's one by her last name Stitt. It's called Food and Behavior. Very shocking. Tests they've done in prisons and all over the world, no question at all that mental health is very linked to your diet and in shocking ways. So there's plenty of research on that. So to continue our journey, we did Dr. Happiness, we did Dr. Movement, we did Dr. Diet. Now we got to go to Dr. Quiet. So Dr. Quiet, first and foremost, says, am I getting enough rest? How much rest do I need? Everyone needs at least 8 hours of sleep until proven otherwise. I've seen all sorts of people. I've got 63,000 students that have gone through the Institute, and many of them will sit and say, well, Tony Robbins says, or so-and-so says, look.
But he's sleeping more now.
Well, I bet he would have to. He used to be my own, he was a client of mine for about 2 years in the late 80s, early 90s. He's a friend of mine. I'm the guy that turned him on to Phil Moffatone, and I wrote all his original exercises programs for him. But he's got his own unique ideas. Like he thinks everybody should be a vegetarian, which is a disaster.
Well, he's on land-based protein now, though.
Well, I'm glad he's finally. For him, it was either going to be wake up or die. Because I have insider information that he was having his own problems. Now I was working with him a long, long time ago, so he was coming to me for structural issues and just support with his body from lecturing and traveling. He's 6'8", yeah. And so I was working with his voice and his body, exercise, and my system hadn't nearly been as developed as it is now. I mean, this is 89, 90, so that's a long time ago. But, I've taken my system, light years ahead of then. But even then I was trying to teach him these things. But
Sleep. Sorry, that was a bit
The point that I was driving at is there's a lot of people that say you don't need that much sleep. But a lot of those people are my patients. And I say to them, okay, well, if that's true, why are you here? Same thing I have to say to the vegetarians that sit there and tell me for an hour how great vegetarianism is for everybody. And I say, well, look, here you are sick. You're not really doing much for your own marketing plan here. The proofs, this is why I say never judge a man by the creed he or she professes, but by the life he or she leads. That's the only evidence you've got that what they're doing is working. And unfortunately, most of the people that write books on diet are overweight, out of shape, and unhealthy. I've researched it myself multiple times. I am the proof of my own philosophy. And anybody that knows me, who's lifted weights with me, been in the raw garden with me, or lived with me, look, I'll be 63 next month. And I'm still as fit and strong as young professional athletes, and there's lots of them out there that can tell you about it. That's the only evidence that you need. I tell people, don't teach health if you're not healthy. If you can't teach in your underwear, you don't belong in front of a group of people telling them what to do. Everybody should see your report card.
Yeah, the ultimate report card.
But the point here is that until you are getting 8 hours of sleep at night and know what it feels like to get to bed on time, now, which brings up another important point, because our hormonal system is driven by the sun-moon cycle, if you're not in bed by 10 o'clock, then you're going to miss out on what's called the physiogenic repair cycle, because research shows, and I learned this from Dr. Bill Timmons, the founder of Biohealth Diagnostics, who I did a 3-year training program in functional medicine with, and he's actually the inventor of the salivary test for hormonal assessment, that the first 4 hours at night, your body focuses on physical repair. So what I found by tracking people is that a lot of athletes and shift workers and people that are staying up too late at night of any type are having a lot of chronic physical problems, like niggling things like tendinitis, neck pain, muscles that seem to not recover, chronic disturbing things, because their body just cannot physically repair if it doesn't have that 4 hours. So that starts at 10 p.m. and goes to 2 a.m. From 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is what's called the neurogenic or psychogenic repair cycle. So once the body finishes working on the physical parts, it goes to the brain, the nervous system, and the things that affect your mental function. And having worked with a lot of nurses, for example, that are working way past 2 a.m. in the morning, and firemen and ambulance drivers and various others, security guards, I've seen those that don't get enough sleep between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. often have psychological problems as their dominant theme. So the point I'm making is people might say they can get by on less sleep than that, but they don't understand how the body works, and the body is actually driven by the cycles of nature and the principles of nature, not by what somebody says that's some expert with their belly hanging over their gut that's taken a bunch of pills.
So when someone says, well, the question is asked, are you an owl or a fowl? Like, if you're an owl, you're someone who stays up, you're up at night a lot.
Yeah.
And if you're a fowl, you get up early in the morning, so so there's that. And there's also a number of books where it breaks it into different almost like animal types. So the wolves are doing this and the bears are doing that.
Yeah,
I'm a bear, I'm a wolf, I'm a lion, or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, is that just a way to sell more books, or is that more, or is there some truth to that?
Differentiating. Well, this is what I've seen, because I've worked with many night owls and I'm married to one. I say, take off your clothes and stand in front of the mirror, and we'll see if you're a sick owl or a healthy owl, a sick bear or a healthy bear.
Okay, very cool.
Okay, so
call you what you want to call you.
You can call yourself, I don't care if you want to be called a he, she, it, cat, dog, or crow. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is, do you have the goods, right? Yeah. Because if you tell me you do better working at night, but you're coming to me because you're inflamed, you're overweight, you're out of shape, your digestive system's not working, your brain's not working, then I say you basically just found a book that fortifies your bad habit.
Sure.
Okay?
Get it.
And I too had to live through that because I run a big business. I at one time had 60 something employees. I was traveling constantly all over the world. So I found I couldn't get my writing done until after everybody left the Institute because I was getting interrupted all the time and I had to work with patients all day. So it was very normal for Penny and I to work till between 1 and 3 a.m. quite consistently. And then we would be back to work by about 9:30 the next day. But after a few years of that, I started getting really run down. And I ran a bunch of functional medicine tests on myself, found out my adrenals were burned out. But Dr. Timmons was the doctor that I hired to be my case manager to look at me. And when he sat down, I said to him, I said, well, now that you've done your analysis, what's wrong with me? And you know what he said? He said, nothing's wrong with you. You're just really tired. And he said to me, if you need to extend your day, you're far better to get up early in the morning because in the morning, the sun's coming up, so your hormonal system's on the rise. That way you're working with the hormonal tides versus if you stay up late at night, your whole body wants to go down because the environment and the light cues are telling you it's time to go down, but you're keeping your cortisol levels up and working the body really hard against the tide. So getting up early in the morning is like paddling with the flow of a river, and staying up late at night is paddling against it. So I switched, so I now get up at 3:30 in the morning and have been for a long, long time, and I find I can get a lot more work done and stay a lot healthier. And the other thing is I take a nap in the afternoon, unless there's days I just can't. But I typically take a 20 to 25-minute nap around 3 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and that revitalizes me so I can get a lot more work done. And prior to that, when I was staying up late at night, I was having a lot more trouble with and I was lifting a lot of heavy weights and training hard as an athlete. So I really noticed that it was impacting my physical strength and my recoverability. But by getting up earlier in the morning and going with the flow of the hormonal system, I feel a lot better. Even though I'm really tired right now because I've been pushing it hard for 4.5 years to write this 15-volume book set and release my Spirit Gym program, I can still, my body doesn't hurt. I can go to the gym and perform well. I mean, I can't perform like I could if I had 8 hours of sleep, but I'm still in good shape. I still feel good. Whereas before, I was literally burning out and I was frying my adrenal glands. If you were to test my adrenal glands right now, you wouldn't find them that they're burned out at all.
So there might be some truth in this, in the expression I heard some time ago, an hour of sleep before midnight is worth 2 after midnight, which is really sort of saying, well, the earlier you get to bed,
yeah,
which is kind of in line with that.
Yeah, generally, the research Dr. Timmons did showed if you don't have your head on the pillow by 10 o'clock, you're cutting into your recovery cycle, and it's going to cost you. So when you look at this from the perspective of how I look at the body, this is what I want you to consider. Your sleep management and how much sleep you're getting is one factor. So I'm going to ask you this. How many people are doing what they love to do and are taking care of the happiness? How many people are moving their body effectively? And how many people are eating effectively? Well, very, very few. So if you add the sleep to a body that's that stressed, it's enough to give you a disease. But if you got a guy like me that has a good relationship with Dr. Happy, a good relationship with Dr. Movement, and a good relationship with Dr. Diet, I've only got one doctor that I'm stressing right now. So I've got enough anabolic energy coming, which is restorative energy coming from effective management of 3 to compensate for stress in one of those doctors. But if you're a 3 or 4 doctor screw up, you're paying a lot of money to the medical system for things that really are just poor self-management. And that's probably 99% of the people out there.
You got nothing left in the tank at all.
You got nothing. You're basically depletion. You're just dismantling yourself day by day until a great source of income for the medical system.
Can I just touch on, because you just showed me before in your book, do you want to explain the...
Let me finish.
You do that one.
Yeah, the finish, because this is very important.
Yeah, round it out.
So Dr. Quiet is looking at your sleep. That's one factor, okay? The other factor is introspection. If we don't take time every day to be in ourselves, with ourselves, and have a relationship with ourselves, then we externalize our sense of self into the world. So instead of really knowing who we are, we start judging ourselves based on how other people like us or don't like us, how many likes we get on Facebook, how much money we're making, what kind of car we drive, what kind of status symbol we have achieved. So that's what I call externalizing the self. The problem is that sense of valuation is always based on other people's evaluation. So you're always dependent on other people to make you feel good about yourself, and that is a death sentence. That never works. And that kills any sense of spiritual growth. To grow your own sense of connection, you must first connect into who you are through an authentic relationship with yourself. So if you don't take time every day to be alone and inside of yourself, which could be meditation, it can be just sitting quietly and witnessing your own thoughts and watching the chatterbox in your head and asking yourself, is it really true? And watching how you judge yourself and judge others and all the negative stinking thinking going on. But when you sit back and witness it, it's kind of like watching stuff float by on a river and you're standing on a bridge. But we'll call those your own thoughts. You start to say, wow, I really have a lot of harsh judgments against this religion or this group of people or these people with this color of skin, or I have a tendency to think that rich people are all just lucky bastards because I don't have any money. So what happens is you start actually seeing that you're using the creative power of your own thoughts to create an internal environment that's actually toxic and separates you from the rest of life or from people. And so there again, there's a lot of drugs being marketed to people to deal with the side effects and the anxiety and the insecurity and the depression that comes from not managing yourself and having a relationship with yourself. So Dr. Quiet is not only sleep, it's introspection and self-reflection at the end of each day. Look through your day and say, did I love fully in my relationships today? Did I put my best foot forward? When I went to work today, did I do what I was paid to do, or did I slack off and get by on the minimum and live like an average person? Carl Jung says the average man can never be successful, because if you're average, you're never going to be successful. So if you really want to grow yourself and achieve your potential, you have to take time for introspection and self-reflection each day. And then Dr. Quiet is also where we go into work-in exercises. In my system, that's the zone exercises. So the criteria for a zone exercise is that your heart rate should not go up, your breathing rate should not speed up, it should be comfortable to do on a full stomach, and your tongue should not dry out. Because if your heart rate goes up, your breathing rate goes up, your tongue starts to dry out, and it's uncomfortable to do on a full stomach, you're going into a sympathetic reaction, which means you're spending more energy and resources than you're accumulating. So by doing very simple movements, such as breathing squats, where you just breathe in the time of the movement of a squat and keeping it very gentle, even if it's a quarter squat. There's a number of them. You can just raise your arms up in the air as you inhale and lower them as you exhale. And just keep, it's so easy that your breathing rate doesn't go up, your heart rate doesn't go up, and your tongue doesn't dry out, and you can do that on a full stomach. Just that rhythmic breathing starts to harmonize the brain, the heart, and the peristalsis of the gut. And that brings the body into a state of coherence, which is like increasing the stability of the internal systems of the body. An engine that's out of tune is rough, uses too much fuel, and shakes the whole car. But if the engine's in tune, it's more fuel efficient, and the car functions better, and it's nicer to drive, and it performs better. It's more responsive. So zone exercises are like tuning the internal systems of the body and making sure people are breathing deeply and effectively, because most people don't breathe properly. So the last component that I'm bringing up here of Dr. Quiet is we use movement to gain energy and increase harmony in the body. And most people, when they fill out these questionnaires, find out that they're too stressed to be working out. And so they don't do anything. But the reality of it is you can do work-in exercises, and even 10 minutes a day can change a person's life. And so there you have your 4 doctors. So in summary, what does Paul Chek do? 1, he makes sure that he does things he loves to do. 2, he's constantly monitoring to see the balance between outgoing energy and resources relative to accumulation of energy and resources. So yang outgoing versus yin ingoing. He makes effective choices based on his 4 doctors, which are there to support the achievement of his dream, which is to basically do the best I can do for the world with legitimate holistic health education through my institute, my podcast, and my spiritual development training through Spirit Gym. So my 4 doctors and those values have to be in alignment with my dream, or I cannot show the world evidence that what I teach is effective, right? And when you have a world full of sick doctors and sick therapists who are burned out and unhealthy and sick experts on nutrition and 5,000 books on diet that aren't working, you have to ask yourself, how far down this road am I going to go before I start taking responsibility for myself and having a relationship with myself instead of running around to doctors to tell me what to do about how to manage a body that's not theirs, that they have no understanding of other than general physiology, which is a very dangerous thing to do. You can read, what's the book called? A great book. It's called Roger Williams, PhD, Biochemical Individuality by Roger Williams. He shows that within one family, there can be a 1,000% difference in the ability to clear a toxin like alcohol. He shows that there are 19 different types of stomach in a human body. He shows that the variances from one person to another, even within the same family, that there can be radically different levels of hormones or even cholesterol. He shows there's people with a total cholesterol of 1,000 that are completely healthy, yet the medical system, as he shows, has developed such narrow windows for all these hormonal tests that almost anyone needs a drug or some kind of procedure. And they designed it that way so that almost everybody looks like there's something wrong. What am I saying? You got a book like that that shows beyond a shadow of a doubt, written by a highly skilled and highly educated man, that you cannot rely on statistical norms to determine whether or not you're healthy or not. So when you're going to doctors and therapists, they're using algorithms and statistical norms, which, to make a point as to how dangerous that is, you'll understand this analogy very well. If you have a stack of stones that has a total weight of 2 tons, or let's call it 1,000 kilograms, and the average weight of those stones is 2 kilograms. If you count the number of stones, and it turns out to be the average weight is 2 kilograms, you realize you could weigh every one of those stones and there wouldn't be a single 2-kilogram stone in there?
Totally.
Okay, now apply that to human beings and you hit the bullseye. What does it mean? You can't rely on doctors and therapists to tell you what's right for you because you're too unique. We all are, right? We are all very unique. There is no escaping developing an honest relationship with yourself. And one of the problems that people don't participate in honest relationships with themselves is because most people are suffering from addictions to things that are medicating their lack of clarity on why am I here? What fulfills me? What's important to me? And what are my values? So when you live a life on the industrial treadmill, behaving like a lot of sick people, and you get addicted, and someone says, hey, you really need to get to bed on time instead of watching that TV show you're using as escape at night, they're not going to do it because they can't survive their doctor happiness choices, conscious or unconscious, without a drug or an escape. So that's why I have to do a fair bit of work to really help people identify what their myth is that they're living by. What is their story, their inner story? And get clear on what their soul came here to give to the world. We all have a unique genius. We've all got something that's a gift to everybody else. But if we keep doing what we think we have to do for money, or what our parents coerced us into doing, or what our university professor coerced us into doing, then we actually end up living a very, very marginal life because our heart's never in it. We're always half-assing it. We're always just getting by. If all you work for is money, I got news for you. A labor of love is sustainable. but a labor without love is not sustainable, and it leads to exactly what we've got in the world. And what does research show? Research worldwide shows, depending on which country you're in, between 70 and 75% of all people surveyed said they hate their job. Okay? So how do you think people that hate their job and go to do that 40 to 60 hours a week are going to survive it? They're going to medicate themselves with junk food, with alcohol, with drugs, with mind-numbing social media and television, and then they run around to doctors wondering why they feel so bad, and they get fed a bunch of pills that makes them more toxic and decreases their vitality and buries the very symptoms that are the very soul of your own being coming to say, pay attention, you're getting fatter and fatter. Pay attention, you're getting more and more tired. Pay attention, you're falling asleep while you're driving your car, and that could get you killed or get your fingers cut off with a saw, etc. That's how we got the world to be just like it is right now. And that's how we made the medical system very, very financially lucrative. And we have gotten so numb and so disconnected that we have a large percentage of the population that will take advice from a guy named Bill Gates who can't keep viruses out of his own computers and tell you that he's the expert of what you should be doing with your body and believe it. Okay? So when you get a population that's dumbed itself down to not know the difference between a real doctor and a real teacher and a con man, then it's time to read How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy and get busy.
How many doctors do you get to your
Training?
training?
Oh, God, hundreds
Really?
through the years, yeah.
Okay, so that's obviously a positive thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Because they're you get them on board.
yeah, I've got many medical doctors, osteopaths, chiropractors, naturopaths, psychologists, nurses, physical therapists, physiotherapists, athletic trainers, massage therapists, strength coaches, personal trainers, dance and movement educators, and a lot of people changing careers coming, from any number of jobs into holistic health as a career. Because our system's set up to take you from zero to successful.
Paul, I'm conscious of time. We've just done another 35 minutes, would you believe? I've got to let you...
It happens.
It's awesome. And look, I'm grateful that you've given me your time and obviously feeling comfortable enough to do that. And thank you for this book. I'm going to get stuck right into that. That is going to be a really powerful thing. As you suggested, I'm going to go through that with my family. We're going to do that little questionnaire ourselves and then make a plan.
Yeah.
It's actually perfect timing because things of, this month over here, it's been a lot of reflection. And as I might have said the other day to you, no, I didn't. It must have been to someone else who interviewed. I don't want to waste the opportunity we've had to be here for the month. I want to go home and go, what do we learn? What inspired us? Whether it's people or scenarios or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is going to be added to that list of inspiring and positive experiences when I get home.
Great.
We're going to call it there. We'll be in touch about various other things in the future. And I can't thank you enough, Paul.
Hey,
for
my
your
pleasure.
time.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
And I looked at your website and I love what you're doing, and I'm grateful you can be a consultant to us here for the farm. And so, love is a boomerang. And look, this is exactly what we're here to do, right?
Totally.
You come visit me. You share wisdom with me to help us live better. I share wisdom with you to help you live better. And when people actually do what they love to do, it's natural and easy to share because it's who you are. It's part of the fabric of your very being, right? And we all need each other. And that's one of the key things. All the globalists are turning everybody against each other. But the reality of it is, look, you didn't make the clothes you're wearing. You didn't make that microphone on your chest. You didn't make the airplane that flew you here. You didn't make your shoes. We all love food from around the world. We love music from around the world. The reality of it is we all need each other. We need each other to have good food. We need each other to have water. We need each other to take care of the planet. And if we're not healthy enough to think clear enough to realize that we're being sold a lot of bullshit, then we're in deep trouble. So as far as Paul Chek's concerned, as a guy who's been doing this for over 40 years, it all starts with you. If you want to change the world, take care of yourself first and you've done something. And then your creativity and your natural genius just flowers out of you because we are part of nature. We're here to be part of and tend to the garden. But if you're too tired and too distracted, then the garden dies while you worry about getting another rocket to another planet, and you don't realize that you're cutting your own throat by being passive.
Well, thank you for helping me tend to my own garden, and ultimately the garden of my family too.
Yes.
So I'll look forward to getting into that, and we'll be in touch soon. And I'm going to have a look around your property here.
Excellent.
Which is great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Welcome.
Awesome.
If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love your support by subscribing, rating and reviewing The Regenerative Journey on your favourite podcast platform. You help us reach more people and keep the show thriving for seasons to come. Each time you listen, you're choosing to make a positive shift in your own world. And if an episode speaks to you, please pass it on to friends, family or communities who might be inspired too. For more details and episodes, visit www.charliearnott.com.au.